Christmas Eve, 7 months pregnant, standing outside her own house in the snow. The smart lock keeps blinking red access denied. Then she sees her, the other woman, walking up with a key that actually works. Her tech CEO husband thought he'd planned everything perfectly, changed the locks, emptied the accounts, built his case with security cameras hidden in Christmas decorations. But those cameras, they belonged to the church, and they'd been recording everything. This revenge is calculated, cold, and absolutely beautiful. Hit subscribe, because what happens next will restore your faith in karma. Let's go. The lock blinked red. Once, twice, 3 times. Savannah Burke stood on her own front porch on Christmas Eve, 7 months pregnant, watching the smart lock reject her key like she was a stranger, like she hadn't lived here for 8 years, like this wasn't her home. Snow fell in thick, wet flakes, melting against her flushed cheeks. She shifted the wrapped Christmas presents in her arms, the paper crinkling loud in the silent night. Every house on the street glowed warm and golden, every family inside, every door unlocked to the people who belonged, except hers. "Carter," she called out, her voice smaller than she intended. "Carter, it's freezing out here." She could see his car through the garage window, the black Tesla, charging. He was home. He had to be home. The baby kicked hard against her ribs, and Savannah wrapped one arm around her belly instinctively, 32 weeks along. The maternity dress she wore was designer cashmere, cream-colored, already soaked through at the hem from the slush on the porch steps. She tried the key again. Same result. Red light, access denied. Her phone. She pulled it from her coat pocket with shaking fingers and called Carter. It rang inside the house. She could hear it through the door. 4 rings, 5 voicemail. "Hey, this is Carter Whitmore. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." The beep felt like a slap. "Carter, I'm locked out," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "The key doesn't work. Can you please open the door? It's snowing and I'm freezing." She hung up, waited. The snow kept falling. The house stayed dark except for one thing. The nativity scene on the front lawn. Carter had installed it last year. Life-size figures bathed in warm spotlights. Mary and Joseph searching for shelter. Someone had taken them in. Savannah had lived in this house for 8 years, and now her own door wouldn't open. She walked around to the side entrance, tried the garage code. The keypad beeped. Red light. Code invalid. Changed. Back door. Locked. She could see into the kitchen through the window. Everything neat and clean. The Christmas cookies she had baked yesterday still on the counter in their tin. Everything normal? Except nothing was normal. Her phone buzzed, then a text message. "Carter." She opened it with fingers so cold she could barely feel the screen. "Divorce papers being delivered tomorrow. You need to leave. Security has been notified." Savannah read it 3 times. The words didn't change. Another text appeared below it. "You can stay at your mother's. This is my house." His house, the prenup. She had signed it 8 years ago when they got engaged, before Carter's startup went public, before the millions. The prenup gave her almost nothing, $50,000. That was it. The house, the cars, the investments. Her hands weren't shaking from cold anymore. They were shaking from something else. Something hot and sharp rising in her chest. She walked back to the front porch, really looked at the nativity scene for the first time. That's when she saw them. Small, black, disguised as decorative elements tucked into the display. But once she noticed the first one, she couldn't stop seeing them. 4 cameras, one near Joseph's staff, one attached to the manger, one hidden in the shepherd's crook, one mounted on the angel's wing, all pointing at the porch, at the front door, at her, recording. Carter had installed security cameras disguised as Christmas decorations, and she had never noticed. Too trusting, too busy being pregnant and excited about becoming a family, too stupid to see what was happening in her own home. Headlights turned onto the street. Savannah's heart jumped. Trevor, maybe he changed his mind. Maybe this was some awful test. But the car wasn't Carter's. A white Mercedes. Expensive. New. It pulled into the driveway right up to the garage. A woman got out. Young, late 20s maybe. Blonde hair and beachy waves. Designer athleisure. The kind of woman who looked like she just left yoga class but was really coming from a professional blowout appointment. Savannah recognized her. Madison Cole, Instagram influencer, lifestyle blogger. Carter followed her. Savannah had seen her in his feed, assumed it was work-related. Trevor's company did marketing, influencer partnerships. Normal. Except Madison was walking toward the front door with a key in her hand. "Excuse me," Savannah called out, stepping forward. Her belly made it awkward, ungraceful. "This is my house." Madison turned, looked at Savannah like she was a stranger asking for directions. Polite but distant. "Actually, it's Carter's house," Madison said. Her voice was light, pleasant, the kind of voice that sold skincare products and vacation packages. The prenup was very clear. "You should probably go before security arrives." She used her key. The lock clicked. Green light. The door opened. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of the pine candles Savannah had lit that morning. Cinnamon and cloves. And home. Madison stepped inside, turned back briefly. "Merry Christmas," she said. The door closed. The lock clicked. The red light blinked. Savannah stood in the snow. 32 years old, 7 months pregnant, locked out of her own house by her husband's girlfriend on Christmas Eve. And somewhere behind those decorative nativity cameras, it was all being recorded. Her phone rang. Vanessa, Julia Brennan, her best friend, the one person she had texted earlier about running late because the gift wrap line had been so long. "Julia," Savannah said. Her voice cracked. "I'm locked out. Carter changed the locks. There's a woman in my house. She has a key. I'm 5 minutes away," Julia said. "Don't move. Do you hear me? Don't move." The call ended. Savannah sat down on the steps, right there in the slush, designer dress soaking through, presents scattered around her. And something inside her broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet crack, like ice on a frozen lake, the kind you don't hear until you're already falling through. Julia's Honda Civic pulled up 7 minutes later. She jumped out without bothering with a coat, still wearing her scrubs from the clinic. She was a nurse practitioner. Must have come straight from work. "Oh, honey," Julia breathed, wrapping Savannah in her arms. Warm, solid, real. Savannah didn't cry. Couldn't. The tears were frozen somewhere inside her, along with everything else. "Come on," Julia said. "Let's get you out of here." "The presents," Savannah said stupidly. "I wrapped them for Carter's family, for the charity drive." "Leave them, my things, all my clothes, everything. We'll get them later. Right now, we're leaving." Julia helped her up, walked her to the car, opened the passenger door. Savannah slid in. The heat was on. Christmas music played softly on the radio. Silent night, holy night, except nothing was calm. And the only thing bright was the spotlight on the nativity scene cameras, recording her humiliation. "How long have you known?" Savannah asked as Julia drove. She watched the house disappear in the side mirror. Julia's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Becca, how long?" A long silence. Then, 6 months, 6 months, half a year, through the entire pregnancy, through every doctor's appointment where Carter had seemed so excited, through every nursery planning session, through every moment Savannah thought they were building a family. "I saw them together, Wahito," Julia continued quietly. "At Rosario's, that Italian place downtown. I thought maybe it was business. Carter does marketing, right? Influencer partnerships. But then I saw how he touched her, how she looked at him. Rosario's, their anniversary restaurant, where Carter had proposed, where they went every year to celebrate. Who else knew?" Savannah asked. Julia didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. "Everyone," Savannah said flatly. "People don't want to be the one to tell," Julia said softly. "They convince themselves it's not their business. They think maybe they're wrong. Maybe they misunderstood. And then time passes and it gets harder and harder to say anything. And I look like an idiot." "No, you look like someone whose husband is a manipulative bastard." At Julia's apartment, Savannah sat on the couch while Julia made tea, chamomile, the taste of bad news. Her phone was buzzing constantly now. She pulled it out, started checking. Bank app, joint account, zero balance. She blinked. Refreshed, still zero. $73,000. Gone. Her personal account, the small one she had kept from before marriage, still had $3,200. Everything else, gone. Credit cards. She checked those too. Canceled. All of them. The notification emails were there in her inbox. Dated today. While she had been at her mother's house, wrapping presents and baking cookies, Carter had been systematically locking her out of her own life. The baby kicked. Savannah pressed her hand to her belly, felt the movement. Life. Innocent. Depending on her, and she was sitting in her friend's apartment with nowhere to go. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Whitmore. This is Officer Davis from the precinct. Your husband filed a restraining order this afternoon. You are not to come within 500 feet of the residence or contact him directly. Do you understand? Savannah's blood went cold. What? On what grounds? Erratic behavior, threatening statements. He submitted Ring doorbell footage as evidence. The cameras. Of course, the footage he had carefully curated. Her trying her key, calling his name, standing on the porch. From his angle, from his narrative, it looked like harassment. Officer, I'm 7 months pregnant. He locked me out of my own house in a snowstorm on Christmas Eve. The house is in his name, ma'am. According to the deed and the prenuptial agreement you signed, I'm just informing you of the order. Violation is a criminal offense. You could be arrested. I need my things, my clothes, the nursery furniture I bought. You can arrange a police escort to retrieve personal items, but not until after the holiday, and only with advance notice. 24 hours minimum. The call ended. Savannah sat with the phone in her hand, stared at the screen. Notifications started appearing. Text messages. Her prenatal yoga group chat. Savannah, what's happening? Carter just posted something weird on Instagram. Are you okay? Instagram. Savannah opened the app with shaking hands. Went to Carter's profile. The most recent post was from 20 minutes ago. A photo of Carter and Madison in the living room. Savannah's living room. By the fireplace where Savannah had hung their Christmas stockings that morning. Cozy. Intimate. Carter's arm around Madison. Her head on his shoulder. The caption, sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the truest happiness. Grateful for second chances this Christmas. Hashtag new beginnings. Hashtag authentic living. 2,000 likes already. Comments flooding in. So happy for you. You deserve this. Best Christmas gift ever. One comment, buried, where's your wife, deleted. Even as Savannah watched, it vanished. She clicked on Madison's profile. Same photo, different caption. Home is where the heart is. Finally found mine. Heart emoji. Madison was wearing pajamas. Christmas pajamas. Red and white stripes. Savannah recognized them. Custom made. Ordered special. They said Whitmore Family Christmas 2024. Savannah had ordered them months ago. 2 sets. His and hers. Matching. For their first Christmas as parents-to-be. Madison was wearing Savannah's Christmas pajamas in Savannah's house with Savannah's husband while Savannah sat in her friend's apartment with no money and no home and no idea what happened to her life. Don't look at social media, Julia said, seeing her face. It'll just, Savannah's phone exploded with notifications. The mother's group chat, the book club, the neighborhood association. Everyone had seen her. Book club, well, this is awkward. Book club, I heard she was unstable. Book club, Carter told someone she threatened him. The lies were spreading faster than truth, faster than Savannah could defend herself. And if she tried, if she posted anything, said anything, she would look exactly like Carter wanted her to look. Hysterical, unstable, the crazy ex-wife who couldn't let go. He's rewriting our entire marriage in real time, Savannah whispered, making me the villain in my own life story. Julia sat down next to her. You need a lawyer, the best divorce lawyer in the city, someone who deals with prenups and rich men and complex assets. I know someone, Julia said immediately. Harrison Wells. He handled my cousin's divorce. Her husband was a neurosurgeon, tried to hide money in offshore accounts. Harrison found everything. Can you call him? It's Christmas Eve. Please. Julia pulled out her phone but made the call, spoke quietly, hung up. He'll see you tomorrow morning. 10 a.m. His office, he said this is exactly the kind of case he takes personally. Tomorrow, on Christmas Day, most people would be opening presents with their families. Savannah would be hiring a divorce lawyer to fight for the right to keep her own baby. Around 2 a.m., Savannah gave up on sleep, went to the bathroom. In the mirror, she looked terrible. Mascara-streaked face, puffy eyes, wet hair from the snow, designer dress wrinkled and stained. She found an old t-shirt in Julia's drawer. Some college logo she barely remembered. It stretched over her belly, barely fit. But it was clean and dry and hers. Then Julia appeared in the doorway. Can't sleep either. Every time I close my eyes, I see them together in my house. They made tea, sat at Julia's small kitchen table, the same kind of table where Savannah had done homework as a kid, where she had announced her engagement to Carter 8 years ago. I never liked him, Julia said quietly. Savannah looked up, startled. You never said anything. You were happy, or I thought you were happy. And who was I to say but that? Did I know about relationships? Julia wrapped her hands around her mug. But there was something about Carter, the way he talked about you, like you were a possession, a trophy, something he acquired rather than someone he loved. Then why didn't you say something? Would you have listened? Savannah thought about it. Honestly, at 24, fresh out of grad school, she had met Carter. Successful, confident, he had swept her off her feet, promised her the world. No, she admitted. I wouldn't have listened. People don't want to hear the truth about someone they love, Julia said. They have to discover it themselves. I just wish you hadn't had to discover it like this. The baby kicked, strong, insistent, reminding Savannah that this wasn't just about her anymore. This was about protecting someone who couldn't protect themselves. I need to fight, Savannah said. Not just for me, for her. Then we fight, Julia said. Together. Outside, snow continued to fall. Christmas morning was only hours away. Somewhere, Carter and Madison were sleeping in Savannah's bed, using her sheets, living her life. But Savannah was alive and angry. And that anger was starting to burn hotter than the grief. At 9:30 a.m. on Christmas morning, Savannah stood outside Harrison Wells's law office, downtown high-rise building, the kind of place that screamed expensive. The elevator was mirrored. Savannah avoided her reflection. She had done her best with makeup, tried to hide the puffy eyes and sleepless night, but there was no hiding the 7-month belly or the defeat in her shoulders. 10th floor, Suite 103, Mitchell and Associates. Wait, the sign said Wells and Mitchell. Harrison Wells. She had the right place. The office was open. A young woman sat at the reception desk, looking surprised to see anyone on Christmas. Savannah Burke, Savannah said. I have an appointment with Mr. Wells. He's expecting you. Conference room B, down the hall, second door on the left. Harrison Wells was younger than Savannah expected. 41? Julia had said. Dark hair, sharp suit, even on Christmas. But it was his eyes that struck her most. Kind eyes, the kind that had seen this story before. Mrs. Whitmore, he said, standing. Please, sit. Can I get you anything? Water, coffee? Water, please. He poured from a pitcher on the credenza. Real glass, not plastic. Everything in this office spoke of success and competence. I've reviewed the preliminary information Julia provided, Harrison said. But I'd like to hear the story from you. Everything. Don't leave anything out, even details that seem minor. So Savannah told him all of it. The locked door, the changed codes, the empty bank accounts, Madison with the key, the Instagram posts, the restraining order, the cameras disguised as nativity decorations. Harrison took notes, didn't interrupt. When she finished, he sat back. This is one of the more calculated cases I've seen, he said, and I've seen a lot. What are my options? He opened a folder. Inside were papers, the divorce filing that Carter had submitted. He's asking for sole custody of the child. Savannah's heart stopped. What? He claims you're mentally unstable, that the pregnancy has been high risk and you've been mismanaging it due to erratic behavior. He submitted medical records as evidence. He what? He accessed your OB records, probably through the patient portal. You may have shared login information at some point, technically illegal, but hard to prove. I was never high risk. My doctor said everything was perfectly normal. I know. I called her this morning. Dr. Rachel Bennett confirmed, but Carter's lawyer is claiming you refused bed rest recommendations that were never made, that you ignored medical advice, that you're unfit to care for a child. The room tilted. Savannah gripped the edge of the table. He's lying. Yes, but he's lying strategically, building a narrative. The footage from the cameras shows you harassing him at the house. The bank records show you had access to money, your personal account, so you weren't destitute. The social media shows him moving on while you're making a scene. It's all designed to paint you as unstable and him as the reasonable party. So he wins. Not necessarily, Bichon. Harrison leaned forward. Let me tell you about the prenup. He pulled out another document. Savannah recognized it. She had signed it 8 years ago, barely read it. Too in love to care about worst-case scenarios. The prenup gives you $50,000. That's it. The house, cars, investments, all his. You signed away rights to marital assets. I know. But, Harrison smiled slightly, the prenup has a clause. It becomes void if either party commits adultery during the marriage. Savannah's heart jumped. Madison. Exactly. If we can prove Carter was having an affair, the prenup is worthless. Everything becomes community property, subject to division. His assets, which by the way are worth substantially more than he's claiming, would be split. How much more? I have a forensic accountant looking into it, but preliminary estimates, he's worth about 8 times what the divorce papers claim. Offshore accounts, shell corporations, hidden investments. He's been planning this for a while. 8 times millions, hidden while Savannah thought they were building a life together. Can you prove the affair? That depends. Do you have evidence, text messages, emails, photos? Just his Instagram and Madison's, so they posted together last night. That helps, but it's not conclusive. They could claim it's a new relationship that started after he filed for divorce. We need proof of an ongoing affair during the marriage. Savannah thought hard, tried to remember anything, any signs she had missed. The cameras, she said suddenly. What about them? What cameras? The nativity scene cameras. They're hidden security cameras. They've been recording for months. Since Carter installed the scene last year, they would have caught Madison coming and going. Harrison's eyes lit up. Who owns the footage? Carter, I assume it's his security system. But where's the nativity scene? On the front lawn. But it belongs to... Savannah stopped. Remembered, it belongs to the church. St. Catherine's. They donated it to Carter 3 years ago for a community display permit. It's still church property. Carter just sets it up every year. And church property means church ownership of any security devices attached to it. Harrison said. He was already pulling out his phone. What's the priest's name? Father Thomas Kelly. I'll call him. If we can access that footage, we can prove the affair. Prove Carter's been planning this. Prove everything. Hope. Tiny and fragile, but hope nonetheless. What about custody? Savannah asked. Even if we prove the affair, can he still take my baby? Harrison's expression softened. Not if I have anything to say about it, but you need to know this will be a fight. Carter has money, resources, connections. He'll try to drag this out, make it expensive, make you give up. I won't give up. Good, because neither will I. They spent the next hour going over strategy. Documents Savannah needed to gather, statements from friends and family, medical records, bank statements, everything to counter Carter's narrative. When Savannah finally left the office, it was noon, Christmas Day. Most of the city was at home with family, opening presents, eating turkey, pretending everything was perfect. Savannah stood on the sidewalk, checked her phone, 17 missed calls, all from blocked numbers. Carter trying to reach her, or his lawyer, or both. One voicemail. She listened. Savannah, this is Dr. Rachel Bennett from Mercy General. I'm calling about your delivery registration. Our records show you canceled your registration here 2 weeks ago and transferred to Riverside Women's Hospital. I wanted to confirm everything went smoothly with the transfer. Please call me back. Savannah's blood went cold. She hadn't canceled anything, hadn't transferred anywhere. She was registered at Mercy General, had been since her first trimester. She called back immediately. Dr. Bennett, this is Savannah Burke. I just got your message. I never canceled my registration. I never transferred to Riverside. A pause. Mrs. Burke, I have the cancellation request right here. Called in on December 10th. The caller said you were switching providers due to insurance changes. That wasn't me. The caller had your patient number, your date of birth, verified your information, Carter, or someone he hired, impersonating her, sabotaging her medical care. Can I re-register? Savannah asked, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm sorry, we're at capacity for January deliveries. I can put you on a wait list, but I can't guarantee a spot. I'm due in 9 weeks. I need somewhere to deliver. Let me check with Riverside. Maybe there was a miscommunication and they do have your records. Savannah called Riverside while Dr. Bennett was checking. Got the same answer. No records, no registration, no idea who Savannah Burke was. She was 32 weeks pregnant, no hospital, no OB on call, no delivery plan. Carter had systematically erased her from the medical system. Savannah sat down on a bench, right there on the sidewalk. People walked past. Christmas shoppers heading home, families bundled in scarves and hats. No one looked at the pregnant woman sitting alone on a bench on Christmas Day. Her phone rang. Julia, how did the meeting go? He sabotaged my hospital registration. Savannah said, her voice sounded flat, distant. What? Savannah explained. The cancellation, the transfer that never happened, 9 weeks until her due date, and nowhere to deliver. Okay, Julia said, her nurse practitioner voice. Calm, competent. Okay, I have connections. Let me make some calls. There's a midwife, Clara Stone. She does home births, very experienced. I'll see if she has availability. I don't want a home birth. I want an epidural. I want a hospital bed. I know, but right now you need a backup plan. We'll keep fighting for hospital access, but we need to make sure you're safe either way. Safe. What a concept. Savannah hadn't felt safe since the lock clicked and denied her entry to her own life. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me. Just get back to my apartment. Rest. Let me handle this. Savannah took an Uber. Couldn't face public transit. Couldn't face people looking at her, wondering why a pregnant woman was alone on Christmas. At Julia's apartment, Julia had made lunch, turkey sandwiches. Savannah tried to eat, managed 3 bites. The baby kicked, demanding nutrition. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Burke, this is Father Thomas Kelly from St. Catherine's. Your lawyer called me this morning about the nativity scene. I think you and I need to talk. Father Kelly's rectory smelled like old books and coffee. The building attached to St. Catherine's Church was stone and ivy, ancient by American standards. Built in the 1920s. Savannah had attended Mass there exactly twice. Once when she married Carter, once when they lost the first baby 2 years ago. She hadn't been back since. The priest was older than she remembered. 65, white hair, kind face, casual black shirt, white collar, comfortable shoes like he had been doing yard work. Mrs. Burke, thank you for coming. Thank you for seeing me on Christmas. The good Lord works every day. So do I. He gestured to a chair. Coffee. It's terrible, but it's hot. No, thank you. They sat in his office, walls lined with theology books and framed photos of parish events. A window overlooked the cemetery. Peaceful, quiet. Your lawyer explained the situation, Father Kelly said. I'm very sorry for what you're going through. Thank you. I want to show you something, but first I need to tell you how I discovered it. He pulled out a laptop. Old, dusty, the kind that took 3 minutes to boot up. The nativity scene, he continued. The church donated it to Carter Whitmore 3 years ago. He promised to display it every Christmas and maintain it. Part of our community outreach program. Good optics for everyone involved. I remember. What you might not know is that the scene is still technically church property. We loaned it, didn't transfer ownership, which means anything attached to it, including security devices, is also church property. Savannah leaned forward. The cameras. I review all security footage from church property every week. Insurance requirement, liability. You understand? He turned the laptop screen toward her. I've seen things that trouble me. The screen showed 4 camera feeds, all labeled with dates and timestamps. September, October, November, December. This footage is backed up to a cloud server the church maintains, Father Kelly said. Carter doesn't have access to it. He thinks his personal security system is capturing everything. He's wrong. He clicked on a file. September 15th, afternoon. The footage showed the Whitmore house, front porch, a car pulled into the driveway. White Mercedes. Madison got out, went to the front door, used a key, went inside. 3 hours later, she left. September, Savannah whispered. I was pregnant. We just announced it to his family. Father Kelly clicked another file. October 3rd, same thing. Madison arriving, staying hours, leaving after dark. October 27th, November 8th, November 22nd. Over and over, Madison coming and going with a key while Savannah was at work, at prenatal appointments, at her mother's house. How many times, Savannah asked. I counted 42 visits between September and December. Always when you weren't home. Always for several hours. 42 times Carter had been sleeping with Madison in their bed, in their house, while Savannah was building a nursery and buying baby clothes and believing her husband loved her. There's more, Father Kelly said quietly. He clicked another file. December 23rd, evening. The footage showed Carter and a man in a suit. They stood on the porch, talking, gesturing. The man pointed at the door, at the cameras, at his watch. That's Carter's lawyer, Father Kelly said. I recognized him from parish events. The footage continued. Carter and the lawyer went through motions. Carter pretended to lock the door. The lawyer pretended to arrive. They practiced, rehearsed, timed it. Make sure you seem calm when you tell her to leave, the lawyer said. The camera had caught audio too. And if she makes a scene, Carter asked. Better for us. The more hysterical she looks, the stronger our case. They laughed. Actually laughed. Savannah felt sick. December 23rd, Father Kelly continued. During the day, the footage showed a locksmith van, a man changing the locks. All of them. Front door, back door, garage. Carter supervised. Paid in cash. While you were Christmas shopping, Father Kelly said. According to the timestamp. Another file. December 23rd. Late afternoon. Boxes being carried out of the house. Savannah's belongings. Her clothes, her books, her laptop. Everything loaded into a truck. Driven away. And finally, Father Kelly said. December 24th, 5 p.m. The footage showed Carter and Madison. Practicing. She usually gets back from her mother's around 8, Carter said, looking at his watch. And I arrive when Madison asked. 8:15, after she's been locked out long enough to seem desperate. What if she doesn't leave? She will. I filed the restraining order this morning. If she doesn't go voluntarily, the police will make her. They rehearsed Madison's entrance, her line about the prenup, her indifference, all staged, all calculated. Make it look natural, Carter said. Like you belong here and she doesn't. Savannah watched her own humiliation being choreographed. Watch them practice, destroying her life. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, was how casual they were about it. Like she was a problem to solve, not a person to consider. This is evidence of premeditation, Savannah whispered. This is evidence of cruelty. Father Kelly corrected. He closed the laptop, looked at her with those kind, sad eyes. I'm giving you copies of everything, he said. Every file, every timestamp. The church won't stand by while someone uses our property to harm another person. That's not what we're about. Thank you, Savannah managed. Her voice was shaking. Thank you so much. I'm also going to do something else, something that might be controversial. He stood, walked to the window. This Sunday, I'm preaching about what I've witnessed, not naming names, but talking about cruelty disguised as righteousness, about how we treat the vulnerable, about cameras and truth. Carter's family won't like that. They're big donors. I don't particularly care what they like. I care about what's right. Savannah left the rectory with 3 USB drives in her purse. Backup copies. Evidence that would void the prenup, prove the affair, show the premeditation. For the first time since the lock had clicked, she felt something other than grief or rage. She felt hope, but that hope was about to be tested in ways she couldn't imagine, because while Savannah was gathering evidence, Carter was building an empire of lies online. By the time she got back to Julia's apartment, her phone was exploding with notifications. Carter had posted again, multiple posts, all telling his version of the story. Heartbroken to share that my wife and I are separating. Mental health struggles during pregnancy have made this necessary. I'm committed to ensuring the best care for our child. The comments were immediate, overwhelming. Stay strong, brother. You're doing the right thing. Pregnancy hormones can be brutal. Mom Madison had posted too, a carousel of photos, her and Carter at restaurants, at events, dating back months, all with timestamps, all making it look like their relationship was public, open, nothing to hide. Been keeping this private, but Carter and I have been together since August. We didn't want to go public until his situation was resolved. Sending love and light during this difficult transition. August, before Savannah even knew Madison existed, the narrative was set. Carter, the suffering husband dealing with an unstable wife. Madison, but the supportive new partner helping him through a difficult time. Savannah, the villain. Comments flooded both posts. I always knew something was off about her. She seems like the controlling type. Poor Carter, having to deal with this while starting a family. Savannah's hands shook as she scrolled. Every comment, every like, every share. They were all building Carter's story, brick by brick, lie by lie. And then she saw it. The post that made her blood run cold. From the neighborhood association page, a photo of Savannah standing on the porch Christmas Eve, taken from across the street, posted with the caption, "Concerning behavior from one of our residents, woman refused to leave property after being asked. Police were called. Stay safe. Neighbors." 34 comments, all speculating, all judging. This was Carter's strategy. Not just divorce her, destroy her. Make sure no one would believe her when she told the truth. Make her the crazy one. Savannah did something she hadn't done in years. She opened a bottle of wine Julia kept in the cupboard, poured a glass, stared at it. Pregnant women don't drink. Unstable women drink alone. She poured it down the sink. Julia came home at 7, found Savannah sitting in the dark. "Have you seen?" Savannah asked. "I've seen. Everyone believes him." "Not everyone. The people who matter don't. The people who matter are you and my mom and Harrison. Everyone else thinks I'm losing my mind." Julia sat down next to her. "Then we show them the footage. We show them the truth. What if the truth doesn't matter anymore? What if his version is the only one anyone believes?" And that was the moment Savannah understood something fundamental, something that would change everything. She couldn't win this fight by playing defense, by reacting to his moves, by trying to correct his lies faster than he could tell them. She had to go on offense. She had to fight back, not with more posts, not with her own narrative, with evidence so undeniable, so overwhelming, that even his lies couldn't stand against it. "Call Harrison," Savannah said. "Tell him we need to file everything. Now, emergency custody hearing, full financial disclosure, all of it. I'm not waiting. I'm not playing nice. I'm going to war." Julia smiled. "That's my girl." But neither of them knew what was coming. Neither of them knew that Carter had one more card to play, and it would almost destroy everything. Harrison Wells filed the emergency custody petition on December 26th. The hearing was scheduled for January 2nd, 7 days away. In those 7 days, Savannah learned what it meant to truly fight. She compiled every text message, every email, every photo. 8 years of marriage distilled into evidence of systematic control. The first time Carter had made her feel small was 3 months into dating. They were at a work event. She was talking to his colleague about a nonprofit project she was excited about. Carter interrupted, made a joke about how she got too passionate about charity work. Everyone laughed, including her, but it hurt. She wrote it down. The time he criticized her weight gain during the first pregnancy. The time he insisted she quit her job because it was embarrassing that she made so little compared to him. The time he screamed at her for 40 minutes because she forgot to buy his specific brand of protein powder. Small things, each one forgivable, explainable. But together, they painted a picture of emotional abuse so clear she couldn't believe she had missed it. Or maybe she hadn't missed it. Maybe she just convinced herself love was supposed to feel like this, like walking on eggshells, like constantly trying to be better, smaller, more convenient. On December 28th, her phone rang. Unknown number. Savannah Burke. Yes. This is Owen Fletcher, Carter's business partner. We need to talk. In person. As soon as possible. They met at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Owen looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. Rumpled suit like he had slept in it. I should have told you months ago, he said without preamble. I'm a coward. I'm sorry. Told me what? Carter's been planning this for over a year. The divorce. Everything. It's not about Madison. It's about money. Savannah's stomach dropped. What do you mean, the company? We're selling it. Buyers doing due diligence now. Closing in February. Carter stands to make about $52 million from the sale. $52 million. The number didn't feel real. But here's the thing, Owen continued. The buyers want a stable CEO, family man, good public image. Trevor needs to look like he has it all together. Wife, baby on the way, perfect life. But he's divorcing me. He needed you to play along through the closing, appear at events, smile for photos, act like everything's fine. Then after the money clears, he dumps you publicly, keeps the baby for optics, keeps Madison hidden in the background. Why would I do that? Because he was going to offer you $5 million to cooperate. $5 million. More money than Savannah had ever imagined having. Life-changing money. Security for her and the baby. And if I don't cooperate, Owen looked away. He'll fight you on everything. Custody, assets. He'll make it impossible. Expensive. Brutal. He'll try to prove you're unfit. Drag you through the mud publicly. He's already doing that. It'll get worse. Much worse. Savannah thought about the footage, the evidence she had, the truth that would void his prenup and expose his lies. What if I fight back? Owen met her eyes. Then I'll help you. I can't keep working with him after seeing what he's done. My wife is pregnant too. I have a daughter. I can't be part of this. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents, financial records, offshore accounts, shell corporations, the real value of Carter's assets, 8 times what he had claimed in the divorce filing. Everything you need to prove he's been hiding money, Owen said. Everything you need to win. Savannah took the folder. Why are you helping me? Because someone should have helped you months ago. And because Carter Whitmore is a bastard who deserves to lose everything. That night, Savannah met with Harrison, showed him Owen's documents. Harrison's eyes widened as he read, "This is incredible. This proves he's been systematically hiding assets, committing fraud. We can use this to void the prenup, force full disclosure, demand a fair settlement. What do? We amend our filing, add financial fraud, request forensic accounting, and we prepare for Carter to come at us harder than ever." Harrison was right. The next morning, Savannah received an email from Carter's lawyer. Settlement offer. $12 million. Full custody to Carter. Savannah gets supervised visitation every other weekend. She appears at 2 company events before the sale closes. Smiles for photos. Plays the happy wife. After closing, they announce an amicable divorce due to irreconcilable differences but remaining committed to co-parenting. The email continued. If she didn't accept within 48 hours, the offer was void. Carter would fight for everything. Make it ugly. Public. Expensive. 12 million. More than the 5 Owen mentioned. Carter was desperate. Savannah deleted the email. Opened a new message to Harrison. Carter offered 12 million to give him custody and play along. I declined. File everything. I want full custody, full asset disclosure. I want him to pay for what he did. Send. The die was cast. That night, Savannah couldn't sleep. Every time she dozed off, contractions woke her. Not labor, just Braxton Hicks. Practice contractions, her body preparing for something. At 2 a.m. her phone rang. Harrison, Basama, sorry to call so late, but I wanted you to know. I filed everything this morning. Emergency custody hearing is still scheduled for January 2nd. Carter's lawyer called me 6 times, threatened, blustered, claimed the footage was illegally obtained. I told him to prove it. He couldn't. What happens now? Now we wait for the hearing, and we prepare, Mom. I need you to write down everything. Every detail of your marriage, every red flag you ignored, every moment you felt manipulated or controlled, everything. That's going to be a long list. Good. The longer the better. We're building a pattern, showing this wasn't one bad decision. It was 8 years of systematic control. After the call, Savannah opened a new document on her phone, started writing. 20 pages later, she had a timeline of abuse so clear, so undeniable, that even she was shocked by it. How had she not seen it? But she knew the answer. You don't see it when you're in it, when you love someone, when you think it's normal, when you convince yourself every relationship has problems. The baby kicked, strong, insistent. I know, Savannah whispered. I know. We're going to be okay. She hoped that was true. 3 days later, New Year's Eve, the story broke publicly. Someone leaked it to the press. Maybe Owen. Maybe Father Kelly. Maybe just the court system. But suddenly, it was everywhere. Tech CEO accused of fraud in divorce proceedings. Hidden cameras expose elaborate plan to remove pregnant wife. Millionaire faces federal investigation after spouse alleges systematic manipulation. The story went viral. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit threads. Everyone had an opinion. Most were supportive of Savannah. Women sharing their own stories of manipulation. Men condemning Carter's behavior. People celebrating Savannah's courage. But some were cruel, blaming Savannah for not leaving sooner, questioning whether she had known about the affair, accusing her of gold digging. Savannah read the comments once, then stopped. Other people's opinions didn't matter. Grace mattered. Her future mattered. That was all. But the publicity had one effect she hadn't anticipated. The company buyers were getting cold feet, the scandal, the allegations. They were worried about Carter's judgment. Owen called to tell her, the sale might fall through. They're doing another round of due diligence, looking into Carter's character, his business practices, everything. $52 million on the line, and Carter was losing it because he couldn't keep his lies straight. How's he handling it? Savannah asked. Badly. He's drinking, paranoid, convinced everyone's against him. Madison left. By the way, what? She moved out 2 days ago, took her stuff, disappeared. I think she realized Carter wasn't the stable meal ticket she thought he was. Even Madison had abandoned him. The perfect life Carter had constructed was collapsing. Be careful, Owen warned. Carter's dangerous when he's cornered. That night, Savannah checked the locks on Julia's apartment door. All secure, security downstairs. She was safe, but sleep still didn't come. At midnight, New Year's Eve turned to New Year's Day. Fireworks exploded somewhere in the distance. People celebrated. New beginnings. Fresh starts. Savannah sat in Julia's living room, 35 weeks pregnant, fighting for custody of a baby not yet born, watching her marriage implode on the evening news. But she was alive and angry, and that anger was fuel now. 2 days until the custody hearing. 2 days to prepare. She could do this. She had to. January 2nd, the courthouse was gray stone and ice. Winter in its cruelest form. Savannah climbed the steps slowly, belly making balance difficult. Louise held one arm, Julia the other. Inside, Harrison met them outside family court. How are you feeling? Terrified. Good. Channel that into focus. Carter and his team will try to make you emotional. Don't give them the satisfaction. They entered the courtroom, small, formal, wooden benches like church pews. Carter was already there, sitting at the defense table with his lawyer. Expensive suit, confident posture. He didn't look at Savannah. Judge Margaret Hendricks entered. Everyone stood. She was 52, gray hair pulled back. reading glasses. The kind of woman who looked like she had seen too much and believed too little. Be seated. Case number 2024 FM 8847, Burke versus Whitmore. Emergency custody hearing. Counselor, you have the floor. And the battle began. Carter's lawyer stood. Smooth. Practiced. Your Honor, my client is here today because of unfortunate circumstances. His wife has made serious allegations against him. Allegations without merit. My client is a successful businessman, a pillar of the community, a man who simply wants what's best for his unborn child. Harrison stood. Your Honor, if I may. You'll get your turn, Mr. Wells. Continue. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Whitmore filed for divorce due to his wife's increasingly erratic behavior during her pregnancy. He has documentation of her instability. Medical records showing she ignored physician recommendations. Witnesses who observed her making scenes in public. Security footage showing her trespassing after being asked to leave. Savannah's hands clenched. Every word was a distortion, a lie wrapped in partial truth. My client is concerned for the welfare of his child. Carter's lawyer continued. Mrs. Burke has no stable housing, no income, no ability to provide for a newborn. Meanwhile, Mr. Whitmore has resources, stability, a genuine desire to be a father. Your Honor, Harrison interrupted. May I present evidence? Judge Hendricks looked at him over her glasses. You may. Harrison stood, pressed a button on his laptop. The courtroom screen flickered to life. The footage from the Nativity cameras began to play. September 15th, Madison arriving at the Whitmore house, using a key, staying for hours. October 3rd, same thing. November 8th, November 22nd, 42 visits. All documented, all time-stamped. Carter's lawyer turned pale. Your Honor, this footage was obtained illegally. No, it wasn't, Harrison said calmly. It's from church property. St. Catherine's Catholic Church owns the nativity scene and all security devices attached to it. Father Thomas Kelly, the parish priest, provided this footage as part of his routine oversight of church property. Judge Hendricks leaned forward. Continue. The footage shifted. December 23rd. Carter and his lawyer on the porch. Rehearsing. Make sure you seem calm when you tell her to leave. And if she makes a scene, better for us, the more hysterical she looks, the stronger our case. They laughed. The courtroom was silent. Even the clerk had stopped typing. More footage. The locksmith changing locks. Boxes of Savannah's belongings being removed. Carter checking his watch. Timing when she would arrive home. Finally, December 24th. Carter and Madison rehearsing her entrance. Make it look natural. Like you belong here and she doesn't. Judge Hendricks held up her hand. That's sufficient. Savannah felt relief flood through her. The judge had seen it. Seen the truth. Seen what Carter really was. But then Carter's lawyer stood, and Savannah's world tilted. Your Honor, we have evidence this footage was manipulated. Harrison froze. Excuse me, we've had a tech forensics specialist review the footage. He found digital artifacts, proof of editing. The timestamps have been doctored. That's absurd, Harrison said. Is it Mrs. Burke had access to the church security system through volunteer work? She had motive. She had means, and she had an opportunity to fabricate evidence. Savannah's heart stopped. Volunteer work. She had helped at the church bake sale once, 2 years ago. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. Harrison started. I have the expert's report right here, Carter's lawyer said, handing papers to the clerk. Judge Hendricks took them. Read. Her expression was unreadable. This is concerning, she said finally. Mr. Wells, can you verify the authenticity of this footage? Your Honor, it came directly from Father Kelly, from the church's own cloud server. There's no way it could have been manipulated. And yet this report suggests otherwise. Savannah watched her evidence being dismantled, the truth being questioned, Carter's lies taking hold. I'd like to call some witnesses. Carter's lawyer said. Over the next hour, 3 people testified, a neighbor. I saw Mrs. Burke acting erratically on Christmas Eve, shouting, refusing to leave when asked. Carter's therapist. Mr. Whitmore came to me months ago. He was concerned about his wife's mental state, her mood swings, her paranoia. a former coworker of Savannah's. She had anger issues at work, confrontational, difficult to work with. Each testimony was a knife, cutting away at Savannah's credibility, her sanity, her fitness as a mother. And then the final blow. Your Honor, I'd like to submit Mrs. Burke's medical records, obtained with her consent. Of course, Carter's lawyer smiled. Savannah hadn't consented to anything. These records show a history of anxiety, depression, medication use, all of which raise serious concerns about her ability to care for an infant. Your Honor, those records were illegally obtained. Harrison began. Mr. Whitmore claims his wife shared login credentials. The lawyer interrupted. As married couples often do, there's nothing illegal about accessing jointly shared information. Judge Hendricks looked tired. I need to review all of this more carefully. We'll recess until tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. The gavel struck. Savannah sat frozen. Harrison was talking. Julia was holding her hand, but she couldn't hear anything over the roaring in her ears. She had lost. Carter had won. Outside the courtroom, in the bathroom. Savannah felt the first real contraction. Not Braxton Hicks. Real, sharp, low in her belly. She gripped the sink, breathed through it. 35 weeks. Too early. Not dangerously early, but too early. When she came out, Harrison was waiting. We need to talk about our options. I'm out of options, Savannah said. You saw what just happened in there. He made me look crazy, unstable, exactly what he planned. The footage is real. We can prove it. How? By waiting for the tech expert to review it. That'll take weeks, months. I'll have given birth by then, and Carter will have custody. Harrison was quiet. Then, there is one thing we can do, but it's risky. What? We need Carter to incriminate himself. Now, on record, fresh evidence that can't be questioned or manipulated. How do we do that? Harrison looked uncomfortable. We need to make him angry, push his buttons, get him to threaten you while being recorded. Savannah understood immediately. You want me to confront him? Not confront, just get him to show who he really is. His temper, his control, the side he hides from everyone else. That's dangerous. I know, which is why I can't officially recommend it. But off the record, it might be our only shot. Savannah thought about it, about Carter's rage when things didn't go his way, about the time he had screamed at her for 40 minutes over protein powder, about the coldness in his eyes when she had challenged him. He was dangerous when cornered, but so was she. How do we do it? Savannah asked. And Harrison told her the plan that would change everything. That evening, Savannah sat in her hotel room, the one the court had ordered Carter to pay for, temporary housing until the case was resolved. She opened Instagram, posted a photo of Grace's ultrasound, the 20-week scan where they had found out they were having a girl. Caption: My daughter deserves to know the truth about her father. No more lies, no more silence. She knew Carter monitored her social media, knew he would see it, knew he wouldn't be able to resist responding. And she was right. At 11:47 p.m., someone started banging on her hotel room door. Savannah opened this door. Carter's voice. Loud, angry, exactly what they needed. Savannah's hands shook as she picked up her phone. Started recording. Harrison had arranged for hotel security to be nearby. They had cameras in the hallway. Multiple angles. Multiple witnesses. She opened the door. Carter stood there, disheveled, drunk, furious. You think you can post that? You think you can destroy me? I posted the truth, Savannah said calmly, keeping her voice level. That our daughter deserves to know her father. She's my daughter, mine, and you're not taking her from me. He lunged forward. 2 security guards appeared from around the corner, intercepted him. Sir, you need to step back. Get your hands off me. Do you know who I am? The guards held him, firm but professional. Say that again, Savannah said, looking directly at Carter, at the 3 hotel cameras recording, at her phone bill, about Grace being yours. Something in her voice made him pause. Look around. See the cameras. See the phone. His face changed, rage to calculation in an instant. You set me up, he said. No, I gave you a chance to show everyone who you really are. And you did. I'll destroy you. I'll take her from you. You'll never see your kid. You're being recorded, Carter, by hotel security, by my phone, by multiple cameras. He realized his mistake, tried to backtrack. I was just concerned. I came to check on you. You've been making threatening posts. I posted an ultrasound photo, Savannah said. The only threat here is you. The security guards were already calling the police. One of them spoke into his radio. We need an officer at the Riverside Hotel, 9th floor. Domestic disturbance. Carter's face went white. I'm leaving. I'm leaving right now. You're not going anywhere, one of the guards said. Not until the police arrive. Detective Brooks showed up 12 minutes later, watched the hotel security footage, listened to Savannah's recording, took statements from the guards. Mr. Whitmore, you're in violation of a court order. There's a hearing tomorrow. I'm going to need you to come with me. I didn't do anything illegal. You threatened your wife. You attempted physical contact. You're intoxicated. And you're in violation of behavioral restrictions during custody proceedings. You're coming with me. They arrested Carter right there in the hotel hallway, read him his rights, put him in handcuffs. As they led him away, he looked back at Savannah. You think you've won. You haven't. I have lawyers. I have money. I have everything. You have nothing, Savannah said quietly. You lost it all the moment you decided I was disposable. After they left, Savannah sent the recording to Harrison. Every angle, every word, every threat. Harrison called back at 12:03 a.m. This changes everything. Court reconvenes at 9 a.m. He just handed us the case. But Savannah barely heard him because another contraction had just hit, stronger than before, more painful. 35 weeks. The baby was coming. Courthouse, day 2, January 3rd, 9 a.m. Savannah arrived with Harrison, Louise on one side, Julia on the other. 35 weeks and 3 days pregnant. Contractions every 20 minutes now. Not active labor yet, but soon. Judge Hendricks entered. Everyone stood. Mr. Whitmore, the judge said, I received disturbing reports about last night. Carter sat at the defense table, different suit, lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. He looked tired, scared. Good. Your Honor, Carter's lawyer began. My client was provoked. Mrs. Burke has been making inflammatory posts on social media. I've seen the posts, Judge Hendricks interrupted. An ultrasound photo with a caption about truth. Hardly inflammatory. She was clearly trying to counsel her. I've also seen the hotel security footage. All of it, from multiple angles. With audio. The lawyer went quiet. Would you like to explain to me, the judge continued, why your client went to his pregnant wife's hotel room at midnight intoxicated and made threats about taking her child? Your Honor, I'm not finished. I've also had Father Thomas Kelly's tech department verify the church footage. It's authentic, unmanipulated. The timestamps are accurate. Your expert's report was fabricated. Savannah's heart leaped. Furthermore, Judge Hendricks said, I've had my clerk do some digging. Your expert witness, Richard Sullivan, he was paid $50,000 by Mr. Whitmore's company 3 days before his report was submitted. Would you like to explain that? Carter's lawyer opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was unaware of that payment, Your Honor. Perjury is a serious offense. Counselor, Your Honor, I'd like to call a witness. Harrison stood. Owen Fletcher, Mr. Whitmore's business partner. Carter's head snapped up. No, Your Honor, he can't. He can, Judge Hendricks said, and he will. Mr. Fletcher, please take the stand. Owen stood, walked to the witness box, placed his hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Harrison approached. Mr. Fletcher, how long have you worked with Carter Whitmore? 7 years. And during that time, did you ever witness Mr. Whitmore discuss plans to divorce his wife? Yes, starting about 18 months ago. What did he say? Owen looked at Carter, then at Savannah, made his choice. He said he needed to time it perfectly. The company sale was coming. He needed to appear stable, family-oriented, keep Savannah cooperative until the money cleared. Then divorce her and keep custody for optics. The courtroom erupted. The judge banged her gavel. He said she was stupid. Owen continued. Said she'd sign anything. Said the prenup was bulletproof. Did he mention Madison Cole? Yes. He said Madison was perfect because she was young and controllable, easy to hide, easy to manipulate. He said once the sale went through, he'd marry Madison, have the perfect trophy wife. And what about the baby? He said the baby was leverage. As long as he had custody, Savannah would do whatever he wanted, sign whatever he demanded. He could control her forever. Savannah felt tears on her cheeks, not from sadness, from rage. Oh, Your Honor, Owen said, turning to the judge. I have additional evidence. Financial records showing Mr. Whitmore has been hiding approximately $47 million in offshore accounts, shell corporations, crypto wallets, all designed to avoid asset division and divorce. He handed a folder to the clerk. I can't work with him anymore, Owen said. Not after seeing what he's done. My wife is pregnant. I have a daughter on the way. I can't be part of this. Judge Hendricks reviewed the documents. Her expression grew darker with each page. Mr. Whitmore, she said finally. Stand up. Carter stood. For the first time since Savannah had known him, he looked genuinely afraid. You orchestrated cruelty with precision, the judge said. You systematically isolated your pregnant wife. You stole her money. You sabotaged her medical care. You manipulated evidence. You committed perjury through your expert witness. You violated court orders. And you did all of this while planning to take her child. She paused. Here's my ruling. Full custody of the minor child upon birth goes to Savannah Burke. Mr. Whitmore will have no visitation until he completes a psychological evaluation, parenting classes, and anger management therapy. Even then, visitation will be supervised. 2 hours, twice monthly, maximum. Your Honor, Carter's lawyer jumped up. You can't. I can and I have. Sit down. The lawyer sat. Furthermore, Mr. Whitmore will provide full financial disclosure of all assets within 7 days. Failure to comply will result in contempt charges. The prenup is void due to adultery. All marital assets will be divided equitably. Given Mr. Whitmore's fraud and manipulation, I'm awarding Mrs. Burke 70%. 70% of $47 million. Savannah couldn't breathe. Mr. Whitmore will pay temporary support of $15,000 per month, starting immediately. He will also pay all of Mrs. Burke's legal fees, and he will have no contact with Mrs. Burke except through attorneys. Judge Hendricks looked at Savannah. Mrs. Burke, you've shown remarkable strength. Your daughter is blessed to have you. Then she looked at Carter. Mr. Whitmore, you tried to use money and power to destroy someone who trusted you. You failed. This court stands with victims, not abusers. The gavel struck. It was over. But then Savannah felt it, a gush of warm fluid, her water breaking. Harrison, she whispered. The baby. She's coming. Julia was already moving. We need to get to a hospital. Now. They rushed out of the courtroom. Behind them, Savannah heard one more thing. Mr. Whitmore, remain in your seat. The FBI would like a word with you about financial fraud and tax evasion. 3 things happening at once. Carter's empire collapsing, the FBI serving warrants, and Savannah's daughter deciding to make her entrance. Perfect timing. Riverside Women's Hospital. Emergency delivery unit. 35 weeks and 4 days. Savannah on a gurney. Julia holding her hand. Louise on the other side. Harrison had called ahead, pulled strings, got her admitted immediately despite the registration sabotage. We're going to do a C-section, Dr. Rachel Bennett said. Baby's heart rate is strong, but at 35 weeks, we don't want to risk a long labor. Is she going to be okay? Savannah gasped between contractions. She's going to be perfect. Small, but perfect. They wheeled her into the operating room. Bright lights, sterile, terrifying. Julia stayed with her, held her hand, whispered reassurances. You've got this. You've survived worse than childbirth. You survived him. The anesthesiologist administered the epidural, blissful numbness from the waist down. Ready? Bennett asked. Ready. Pressure, movement. Savannah couldn't feel pain, but she could feel them working, could see the reflection in the lights above. Then, a cry. High, thin, perfect. "It's a girl," Dr. Bennett said. Savannah couldn't see yet. The curtain blocked her view. "Is she okay? Is she breathing?" "She's breathing. 5 pounds, 8 ounce, 17 inches. Small but mighty." They brought her around, placed the baby on Savannah's chest. Warm, wet, screaming, beautiful. Savannah looked down at her daughter, counted fingers, counted toes, studied the face that looked like hers. "Hello, Grace," she whispered. The baby quieted, stopped crying, looked up at her mother with unfocused eyes. In that moment, Evanitsa, everything else fell away. The divorce, the custody battle, the fight. None of it mattered. Only this, only Grace. Louise was crying. Julia was crying. Even Dr. Bennett had tears in her eyes. "You did it," Louise whispered. "You brought her into the world safe." Safe. That was the word. Despite everything, the sabotage, the homelessness, the fight, Grace was safe. They moved Savannah to recovery. Grace in a bassinet beside her, monitors beeping. Everything normal, everything perfect. Harrison arrived an hour later, flowers in hand. "Congratulations," he said. "She's beautiful. Thank you for everything." The judge finalized some things while you were in surgery. Carter's been charged with multiple counts of fraud, wire fraud, tax evasion. He's looking at 18 months federal prison, plus fines. What about visitation? He has to petition for it after he completes all requirements. Evaluation, classes, therapy. That'll take at least 6 months. And even then, it's supervised only. 2 hours twice a month. That's all. 4 hours a month with his daughter. That's what Carter's manipulation had earned him. The company sale fell through, Harrison continued. Buyers backed out, cited reputational concerns. His business is tanking. His reputation is destroyed. He's ruined. Savannah should have felt satisfaction, vindication, but she just felt tired and peaceful. "I'm going to let you rest," Harrison said, "but I wanted you to know you won, completely." After he left, Savannah looked at Grace. Sleeping now, perfect and peaceful. "We did it," she whispered. "We're both okay." Over the next few days, visitors came. Owen and his wife, Father Kelly. Louise stayed in the hospital room, sleeping on the uncomfortable chair, being the grandmother Grace deserved. Julia managed everything, coordinated with the midwife who had been on standby, brought clothes for Savannah, set up the bassinet in her apartment for when they went home. Home, Julia's apartment for now. But soon Savannah would find her own place, something small, something hers, a door that would open when she needed it to. On day 3, an unexpected visitor arrived, Madison Cole. She stood in the doorway, nervous, holding a small gift bag. "Can I come in?" Savannah considered saying no, but curiosity won. For a minute, Madison approached slowly, looked at Grace in the bassinet. "She's beautiful. Thank you. I came to apologize. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I need to say it. I'm sorry." "Why?" "Because I was wrong. I believe Carter's lies. He told me you were separated, that the marriage was over, that you were the problem. I believed him because I wanted to, because it was easier than seeing the truth." She set the gift bag on the table. "I'm in therapy now, learning about narcissistic abuse, learning about how people like Carter manipulate, how they isolate their victims, make everyone else complicit." "When did you realize?" "Christmas Eve, when I saw you on the porch, pregnant, in the snow. I knew something was wrong, but I told myself his version, that you were being dramatic, that you were the problem." She paused. "And then I saw the footage, what he did to you, how he planned it. I realized I was next. If he could do that to his wife, what would he do to me when I was no longer useful?" "So you left?" "I left, and I'm testifying against him. The FBI asked me to cooperate. I said yes." They sat in silence. "I don't forgive you," Savannah said finally. "Not yet, maybe not ever. But I understand. We were both his victims, in different ways." I hope someday you can forgive me, but I understand if you can't. Madison left. The gift bag contained a book, Healing from Emotional Abuse. Savannah set it aside. She didn't need it right now. Right now, she needed to focus on grace, on healing, on moving forward. That night, alone with her daughter, Savannah whispered the story. You're 3 days old, and you don't know it yet, but you were born into a battle with family. Your father tried to take everything from us, our home, our money, our future. Grace made small sounds, not quite words, but close. But we won, we survived, and now we get to write our own story. Not his version, ours. The baby grabbed Savannah's finger, held tight. I'm going to tell you this when you're older, about the year you were born, about how your mother fought for you, about how we survived. Outside the hospital window, snow began to fall, gentle, peaceful. 1 year ago, Savannah had stood in snow on Carter's porch, locked out, terrified. Now she sat in a hospital room, her daughter in her arms, her future secure. She had lost everything and gained herself, and that was worth more than any mansion, any bank account, any perfect life that was built on lies. Grace fell asleep. Savannah held her, counted her breaths, marveled at how something so small could be so strong. They had survived, both of them, and tomorrow they would start building something new, something real, something theirs. 1 year later, Christmas Eve, Savannah's apartment was small, 2 bedrooms in a neighborhood with good schools and a park nearby. Nothing like the mansion she had lost, but it was hers, her name on the lease, her key in the lock. Grace was 13 months now, walking, babbling, personality emerging. She looked like Savannah, dark hair, green eyes, none of Carter visible except maybe the determined set of her jaw. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, small, real, decorated with ornaments Savannah had made herself. Paper snowflakes, salt dough stars, nothing designer, nothing coordinated, just real. Louise arrived at 5, arms full of food. I made enough to feed an army. Mom, there's only going to be 6 of us. Then we'll have leftovers. Julia came next, with her new girlfriend, Sophie, then Owen and his wife, carrying their baby daughter, 3 months old, named Savannah, after the woman who had changed Owen's life. They cooked together, laughed, watched Grace play with wrapping paper instead of toys. Normal, peaceful, everything Savannah had fought for. After dinner, they sat around the tree, the adults talking quietly while Grace slept in her portable crib. How's the book coming? Julia asked. Done. Publisher wants it in March. Unlocked How I Escaped a Manipulative Marriage and Found Myself. Perfect title. What about Carter? Owen asked carefully. Have you heard from him? He sends child support on time. That's it. He completed his requirements. Got his supervised visitation approved. 4 hours a month. He uses maybe half of them. Grace is better off, Louise said firmly. Savannah agreed. Carter had shown up twice in the past year, held Grace awkwardly, checked his phone constantly, made excuses to leave early. He hadn't wanted to be a father. He had wanted the image of being a father. The reality was inconvenient. Around 10, everyone left. Hugs, promises to get together soon. Savannah was alone with Grace. She walked to the window, looked out at the city, snow falling, Christmas lights reflecting off buildings. 1 year ago, she had stood in snow outside Carter's house, locked out, homeless, terrified. Now she stood in her own apartment, her name on everything, her daughter sleeping peacefully, her future secure. On the windowsill, Savannah had set up a small nativity scene, not the elaborate one from Carter's lawn, something simpler, something she had painted herself. Mary looked strong, determined, protective. Joseph looked supportive, present. Baby Jesus looked like any baby, innocent, full of possibility. Grace stirred, made small sounds. Savannah picked her up, held her close. You're walking now, she whispered. Soon you'll be running, getting into everything, growing up. The baby grabbed Savannah's finger, held tight. I'm going to tell you this story when you're older, about the year you were born, about how your mother fought for you, about how we survived. Her phone buzzed. A message from someone who had read her blog. I just left. I'm in my car with my 3 kids. I don't know where we're going, but we're going. Thank you for showing me it was possible. Savannah typed back quickly. You're not alone. You're not crazy. And you're going to be okay. I promise. She had sent similar messages 100 times. 1,000. Everyone meant it. Because she knew she had been there. In the car. In the darkness. In the moment of choice. And she had chosen herself. Outside, midnight approached. Christmas Eve turning to Christmas Day. Savannah thought about last year. The lockout. The humiliation. The cameras recording her worst moment. But those cameras had also recorded the truth. Had given her the evidence she needed to fight back. To win. Carter had tried to use technology to destroy her. Instead, it had saved her. Grace reached for the baby Jesus figure. Knocked it over. Savannah picked it up. Said it right. That's okay, baby girl, she said. Sometimes we fall, but we always get back up. She carried Grace to the rocking chair, sat down, started to hum a lullaby. The same one Louise had sung to her, the same one she would sing to Grace. And maybe Grace would sing to her own daughter someday. Generational strength passing down. At midnight, Savannah's phone lit up with messages. Merry Christmas texts from everyone who had stood by her, fought for her, believed her. She responded to each one, then set down the phone. Grace was asleep again, peaceful. Savannah looked around her small apartment, the simple tree, the second-hand furniture, the life she had rebuilt from nothing. It wasn't the mansion, wasn't the designer clothes or the 7-figure bank account, but it was hers, her door, her lock, her life, and nobody could take that away. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the city in white, making everything clean and new. Inside, warmth, safety, peace. The door was unlocked, not because she had forgotten, but because she wasn't afraid anymore. She had survived the worst, faced the darkness, come through the other side, not unchanged, but transformed, stronger, wiser, free. He tried to write me as the villain in his story. She thought one last time. Instead, I became the hero in mine. Grace shifted in her arms, made small sleeping sounds. Merry Christmas, sweet girl, Savannah whispered. Our second Christmas in our own home, the first of many. She rocked slowly. Watching snow fall outside the window, the nativity scene glowed. Mary strong and determined, Joseph supportive, baby safe. A year ago, Savannah had stood in front of a different nativity scene. Cameras recording, door locked, life falling apart. Now she had her own scene. Small, simple, honest. No cameras, no lies, no performance. Just a mother and daughter, safe together, free. The lock had clicked once, denying entry, making her feel small and powerless and disposable. But she had learned something powerful in the years since. The door was never really locked. She had just needed to believe she deserved to walk through it. And now she knew. She did deserve it. Grace deserved it. They both deserve safety and peace and freedom and love. Real love, not the conditional kind Carter had offered, not the kind that came with contracts and conditions and constant fear, the kind that existed in small apartments and homemade ornaments, and friends who showed up and mothers who never stopped fighting. That kind of love, the real kind. Outside, church bells rang. Midnight, Christmas Day, inside. Savannah held her daughter and knew, finally, what home felt like. Not a mansion with smart locks and security cameras, but a small apartment where the door opened when you needed it to, where you were safe, where you were loved, where you could be yourself. That was home, and she had found it. If Savannah's story resonated with you, if you felt her pain or celebrated her victory, drop the word unlocked in the comments. Let's build a community of people who found their own keys to freedom. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, someone who feels trapped or gaslit or alone. Sometimes we need to hear someone else's story to recognize our own. Remember, you're not crazy. You deserve better. And the door was unlocked all along. You just needed to believe you deserved to walk through it. National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning.